You say wait. Make I check my phone, give you number. You shall be you to go shop. Now me born you. Oh yeah, jare 080. Wait happen.
Chagi,
Eh?
they don't run me street oh. I go Ladipo.
Ladipo.
I go Ladipo.
You go. No. Alaji, sit down, sit down. Sit down. You go Ladipo. Say out the law. Come. I said them say see they put on your password for phone as they do before.
Everything dead here now.
Everything there. Oh yeah, take. Take, make you call your bank, make they block your account immediately. You know the person wait if your phone, if you get your personal information, and with your personal information, all the remaining money with the account, if you clear out, I pay you. Now why good to get both phone lock and SIM lock now? Well, another thing where you suppose get now USSD code, where they call short code. Because with that one, if your phone lost again, now simple thing, you go just collect anybody for where they around you. Your bank go block your account straight. The person not go feel use am. Come, what did they press? I mean, before my phone disappear for your hand. Well, Alaji, support the law. What's in law? Now go for my guy. Confirm me again.
This message is brought to you by the Bankers Committee, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in partnership with the Committee of Chief Information Security Officers of Nigerian Financial Institutions.
Alaji,
Shaggy.
how far that?
Thank you.
I beg that your girlfriend where they say better beef for junction. Come give me a number. I'll go buy food for her.
Oh yeah, now me to go chop oh.
You say wait. Make I check my phone, give you number. You shall be you to go shop. Now me born you. Oh yeah, jare 080. Wait happen.
Chagi,
Eh?
they don't run me street oh. I go Ladipo.
Ladipo.
I go Ladipo.
You go. No. Alaji, sit down, sit down. Sit down. You go Ladipo. Say out the law. Come. I said them say see they put on your password for phone as they do before.
Everything dead here now.
Everything there. Oh yeah, take. Take, make you call your bank, make they block your account immediately. You know the person wait if your phone, if you get your personal information, and with your personal information, all the remaining money with the account, if you clear out, I pay you. Now why good to get both phone lock and SIM lock now? Well, another thing where you suppose get now USSD code, where they call short code. Because with that one, if your phone lost again, now simple thing, you go just collect anybody for where they around you. Your bank go block your account straight. The person not go feel use am. Come, what did they press? I mean, before my phone disappear for your hand. Well, Alaji, support the law. What's in law? Now go for my guy. Confirm me again.
This message is brought to you by the Bankers Committee, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in partnership with the Committee of Chief Information Security Officers of Nigerian Financial Institutions.
Alaji,
Shaggy.
how far that?
Thank you.
I beg that your girlfriend where they say better beef for junction. Come give me a number. I'll go buy food for her.
Oh yeah, now me to go chop oh.
You say wait. Make I check my phone, give you number. You shall be you to go shop. Now me born you. Oh yeah, jare 080. Wait happen.
Chagi,
Eh?
they don't run me street oh. I go Ladipo.
Ladipo.
I go Ladipo.
You go. No. Alaji, sit down, sit down. Sit down. You go Ladipo. Say out the law. Come. I said them say see they put on your password for phone as they do before.
Everything dead here now.
Everything there. Oh yeah, take. Take, make you call your bank, make they block your account immediately. You know the person wait if your phone, if you get your personal information, and with your personal information, all the remaining money with the account, if you clear out, I pay you. Now why good to get both phone lock and SIM lock now? Well, another thing where you suppose get now USSD code, where they call short code. Because with that one, if your phone lost again, now simple thing, you go just collect anybody for where they around you. Your bank go block your account straight. The person not go feel use am. Come, what did they press? I mean, before my phone disappear for your hand. Well, Alaji, support the law. What's in law? Now go for my guy. Confirm me again.
This message is brought to you by the Bankers Committee, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in partnership with the Committee of Chief Information Security Officers of Nigerian Financial Institutions.
Alaji,
Zaki.
how far that?
I do.
I beg that your girlfriend wey dey sell bread and beef for junction. Come give me her number, I wan go buy food for her.
Oh yeah, now me too go chop. Oh.
You say wait,
Make I check my phone, give you number.
you shall be you to go chop, na me born you. Oh yeah, jare 080. Wetin happen?
Chagi,
Eh?
they don't run me street. Oh. I go Ladipo.
Ladipo.
I go Ladipo.
You go, look. Alaji, sit down. Sit down. You go Ladipo. Say out a law. Come. I said them say see they put on your password for phone as they do before.
Everything dead here now.
Everything dey there. Oh yeah, take. Take, make you call your bank, make they block your account immediately. You know say person wey thief your phone, if you get your personal information, and with your personal information, all the remaining money wey dey your account, if you clear am, I pay you. Now why e good to get both phone lock and SIM lock now? Well, another thing where you suppose get na USSD code, where they call short code. Because with that one, if your phone lost again, na simple thing. You go just collect anybody phone where they around you. Your bank go block your account straight. The person no go fit use am. Come, what you dey press sef? I beg before my phone disappear for your hand. Well, Alaji, support the law.
What's it now?
No go for my guy. Confirm am again.
This message is brought to you by the Bankers Committee, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in partnership with the Committee of Chief Information Security Officers of Nigerian Financial Institutions.
Zaki.
How far that?
I do.
I beg that your girlfriend wey dey sell bread and beef for junction. Come give me her number, I wan go buy food for her.
Oh yeah, now me too go chop. Oh.
You say wait,
Make I check my phone, give you number.
you shall be you to go chop, na me born you. Oh yeah, jare 080. Wetin happen?
Chagi,
Eh?
they don't run me street. Oh. I go Ladipo.
Ladipo.
I go Ladipo.
You go, look. Alaji, sit down. Sit down. You go Ladipo. Say out a law. Come. I said them say see they put on your password for phone as they do before.
Everything dead here now.
Everything dey there. Oh yeah, take. Take, make you call your bank, make they block your account immediately. You know say person wey thief your phone, if you get your personal information, and with your personal information, all the remaining money wey dey your account, if you clear am, I pay you. Now why e good to get both phone lock and SIM lock now? Well, another thing where you suppose get na USSD code, where they call short code. Because with that one, if your phone lost again, na simple thing. You go just collect anybody phone where they around you. Your bank go block your account straight. The person no go fit use am. Come, what you dey press sef? I beg before my phone disappear for your hand. Well, Alaji, support the law.
What's it now?
No go for my guy. Confirm am again.
This message is brought to you by the Bankers Committee, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in partnership with the Committee of Chief Information Security Officers of Nigerian Financial Institutions.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope we are all doing well. This is me saying good afternoon from Lagos. Thank you for joining our webinar this afternoon. Theme data privacy laws and how they affect you and I. I am your host today, Aditya Adiniji, and I hope that you are going to enjoy the session today. So please let me see the chats. I want to know where you are, watching this webinar from. I'm in Lagos, Nigeria. Please tell me in the comment sections. I want to see, I want to hear, I want to read where you're from. Okay. Just let me know. Let's engage before we get into the session. I'm sure you have seen, the adverts and our speakers that will be coming up today, and I promise you it's going to be very engaging and very fun. Okay, so please let me know. We have somebody from someone will just repeating the video. Okay, great. Please let me know where you're dialing it from. Please engage. Let's see where are you watching this video from. Let's know where you are. I would like to engage with everyone. I'm not seeing a lot more comments yet. Comments. Joe from Lagos, Nigeria. Hi, Joe. Thank you. We have Rabiu from Abuja. We have Mercy from Lagos. Nice to meet you all. Thank you all so much. Thank you for engaging. Keep it coming. And also, let me just give you a tip that is coming, right? At the end of the webinar, make sure you're listening as it's going, because you're going to ask questions and there will be a giveaway or at the end of the question. So please make sure that you are listening in. Take things down if you need to, because at the end of the webinar there will be a giveaway. So I'm giving you this ahead so that you don't say, oh, you aren't aware. I can see Damilala from Lagos. I can see Abdul Majid from Port Harcourt. Great. Ademola from Lagos. Okay, how is this Nepa today? I know that it has been raining on and off today in Lagos. I don't know about other states, but I know that's what it is in Lagos. I hope the water isn't affecting you. Anyway, thank you all so much. October is the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and it's very important that in all our activities, you are cyber aware. You are carrying out your activities and you are making sure that you are not doing the wrong things, you are doing the right things, because scammers or hackers are everywhere and they want to get hold of your information. So this is your duty to make sure that you do not let out your information that easily, so that anyone can just get that your information or your data, your personal data, and use it to harm you afterwards, right? You should I'm sure that at the end of the session you would be able to understand what data privacy laws are, how they affect you and I, and what you should do, to arm yourself to make sure that you are also protecting your own data, because your data is very important to you. You shouldn't let it go just like that. Okay, I would be introducing our speakers now. We have two speakers, so I will just say, let's do ladies first. So I would be introducing, Fatima Adalbi Sani. She works in the strategy, partnerships and communication department at the Nigeria Data and Protection Commission. Hi, Fatima, pleased to see you. Hello there.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's good to be here.
Thank you very much, Fatima. It's very great to see you. I love when I see women in the tech field. Like, gives me that, yes, women are also doing, not just men, right? And I'm glad to have you here. Very sure that by the time we get to this session, you'll be able to educate us very well on how data privacy laws affect us in Nigeria. Thank you. Next up, I would be introducing Abumere Igua, the Chief Information Security Officer at Zambia IBTC. Hello, Abu. Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
Hi, hello everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure being in your midst again. And I look forward to a nice session.
Great.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much. So thank you, Fatima. Thank you, Abu. Without wasting, too much of your time, for everyone in the audience that has joined us, we appreciate your presence here. We're going to go straight to the presentation Fatima has for us, and I hope that you are going to learn a lot. Fatima, I think your presentation should come up now, and I will just leave the floor for you to educate us on data privacy laws. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you once again for having me. Please, can you see my screen? Okay, so today we are going to be speaking about data. So I'm going to be speaking about data privacy laws and how they affect you and I. So just to get right into the conversation, data privacy and protection are two distinct terminologies. So data privacy means empowering individuals to make their own decisions about who can process their data and for what purpose. This has been provided in the 1999 Constitution, particularly in Section 37, while data protection focuses primarily on the measures and mechanisms implemented to safeguard data against unauthorized access and breaches. Simply put, data privacy is more like a right that just empowers you as an individual to ask questions about people who process your information, while data protection just simply speaks about the measures and mechanisms implemented to safeguard your data against unauthorized access. We have key data protection concepts such as data processing, which refers to the operation or set of operations that are performed on personal data. And personal data is any information that can be used to identify you as an individual. And as an individual in the ecosystem, the moment you are identifiable, you are referred to as a data subject. A data controller is an individual, a private or public entity that determines the purpose and means of processing personal data, while a data processor is an individual, private or public entity that processes personal data on behalf of a data controller. So in this ecosystem, simply put, we have four key stakeholders: the data controller, who determines the means of processing; the data processor, who processes data on behalf of a data controller; the data subject, which is everyone; and then the data regulator, which is NDPC. The most interesting thing about all stakeholders is that we are all data subjects. So your role or capacity would determine the stakeholder that you are at the moment. So if you are making decisions about how data can be processed, you'll be regarded as a data controller. In this context, we'll have Stanbic IBTC. Now, Stanbic IBTC have staff who collect data when you get into the bank. They are regarded as the data processors. Now, across the globe, we have privacy laws, which are legal frameworks that are designed to protect personal data and regulate how organizations collect, process, and store information. We have over 136 countries that have their data laws, including the California Consumer Privacy Act, the Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act. We have the General Data Protection Regulation that applies to EU residents. We have the General Personal Data Protection Law. We have the Protection of Personal Information Act, and we have the Nigeria Data Protection Act that I'll be speaking about, because we know that most individuals that we have on the call are Nigerians. The objective of the data privacy laws include protection of individuals' rights, ensuring that there's transparency and accountability when data processing is taking place, of course, preventing data misuse, which would also help to reduce data breaches, promoting trust in the digital ecosystem, and promoting economic growth. There are two types of data. So we have the personal data and the sensitive personal data. So it is sensitive because we require it. I mean, the law provides that you need to ensure that you implement more adequate measures when processing such information. Also, if you are processing a sensitive data, you cannot just process it as you would process the normal personal data. It is also important to note that even your personal data, as described, like your full name, your date of birth, the gender identity, your driver's license number, passport number, NIN, address, and phone number, could actually be referred to as a sensitive personal data depending on the context. For instance, if I say a lady or a guy wearing blue, fine face, low cut, and maybe high blood pressure, you are not able to identify anyone per se. But if I say all of those and then I put a name, right, that will serve as the identifier at that time. So at that point, your name can become your sensitive information. So when you are processing sensitive personal data as a data controller or processor, because like I said, we have various stakeholders in this ecosystem. So being here and in line with the theme of this webinar, you could also be a data controller, even as a data subject. So if you are a data controller and you need to process sensitive information, you need to ensure that you have one of any of the following, such as an consent from the data subject. You need to also ensure that the consent you have received has not been withdrawn. It's important for me to state that withdrawal of consent does not invalidate processing that has been done prior to when consent was withdrawn. Also, if you are processing, you can only process sensitive personal data if it's necessary for employment or social security obligations. So if you are in an organization and you're going for an employment, it just says that the data controller can process your sensitive personal data. Let's take, for instance, the health record. How is an organization able to determine the fitness of an individual if they don't necessarily have a certificate of fitness from a medical facility, that's a hospital, for instance? So in that case, they can process your data even when you don't give consent per se. Also, when it's important to protect an individual's vital interest where they cannot give consent, if it's for an NGO for its legitimate activities. So it's important to also know that when processing sensitive personal data, you need to ensure that you have implemented legal safeguards. We'll be speaking about the kind of safeguards you can implement as a data subject or even a data controller or processor. If it's required for legal claims and proceedings, if it's for public interest, medical care, public health with safeguards, if it's for archiving, research, or statistical purpose in public interest, you as a data controller can also process sensitive personal information. Now we have the Nigeria Data Protection Act of 2023, which is the current legal framework for processing of information in Nigeria. So earlier when I was speaking about privacy law, I had highlighted this law as an example of one of the 136 countries that have, or one of the 136 privacy laws globally. So the act also establishes the Nigeria Data Protection Commission as the regulator for data processing in Nigeria. It is divided into 12 parts and contains 66 sections. So it doesn't repeal the NDPR. The NDPR is the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation. So what we see as a full-fledged commission actually emanated from a mere unit in an organization called NITDA. So while a unit, NITDA issued a regulation, which is the NDPR of 2019, when the NDPB, that's the Nigeria Data Protection Commission, Bureau then, as it was then, was established, we started drafting our law. And then on June 12th, 2023, the law was passed, and then we transitioned into the Nigeria Data Protection Commission. The Act provides for governing framework for data processing in Nigeria, rights of data subjects, data security, cross-border data transfer, requirements for data controllers and processors of major importance, compliance, infringements, penalties, dispute resolutions, and the NDPC, establishment of the NDPC. Now, speaking about the application of the Act applies to a data controller or processor that is domiciled in Nigeria if the processing of personal data occurs in Nigeria, and if the data controller processor is not in Nigeria but is processing personal data of data subjects in Nigeria. However, we know that to every general rule there is an exception. So you are exempted from the application of this act if you are processing personal data for your personal or household purposes. So for instance, if you have CCTV in your home, the act would not apply to you. Also, if the processing of personal data is carried out by a competent authority for law enforcement, prevention of a national public emergency, national health, or legal claims, the act would not apply. However, it's important to state that the exemptions that I have spoken about earlier is not a blanket exemption. So, as an exemption, you need to, even though we have stated some of these exemptions, it's important to state that when processing information, even if it's for household or personal purpose, you need to ensure that it does not constitute a violation of another person's rights. So for instance, if you have cameras in your home, you need to ensure that it's not recording someone else without their consent, because we see that there are times when you need to install a camera outside the premises for security purposes, but it is also important to inform your neighbors. Now, the Act provides for setting principles for data processing. So this is really tailored towards data controllers and processors like Stanbic IBTC Bank. So it says that when you are processing information, they need to be in line with these principles. So the principles are: one, lawfulness, fairness, and transparency, that says that there should be a legal ground for processing. And I mean, data subjects need to be informed. So if you go to Stanbic IBTC Bank, I'm sure that you are being informed as to you are informed when your data needs to be processed. Also, there's a principle of purpose limitation that says that data should not be processed more than, the purpose for processing should be specific, explicit, and legitimate. So it is closely aligned with the first principle of lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. Data minimization just says that you should not process more data than required at the time of collection. So it doesn't say don't process more data than you require. It just states that at that time when you are processing the information, don't take more data from a data subject than required. So you need to ensure that the data that you are collecting is adequate, relevant, and limited to what is necessary in relation to the purpose for which they are collected. The next principle is the principle of accountability that states that data needs to be correct and kept up to date. You need to ensure accuracy of data by verifying correctness of data, delete and rectify incorrect data, update data at different stages, and of course, allow data subject control of accuracy. So you need to also note at this point that the data privacy laws provide obligations for data controllers, right, which is adherence to the principles of data processing and rights of data subjects that we'll be speaking about in the course of the session. So another principle is storage limitation that states that you should not keep data for longer than necessary. So it's important to also develop retention policy. So if you also have data in your custody, you need to ensure that you protect against risk of interference, which is in adherence to the principle of integrity and confidentiality. And as a data controller, you need to ensure that you are accountable, right, and you demonstrate compliance with the Nigeria Data Protection Act. Next, I'll be speaking on is the legal basis for data processing. So as a data controller, you need to ensure that there is a legal basis for processing people's information. It is important to state that none of these bases supersedes the other. They are actually at par. So it's important to note that consent is not the only legal basis for processing information. So as a data subject, if a data controller wants to process your information, they don't rely on only consent for processing, but consent just simply means an affirmation, right? So if a data controller comes to you and says, oh, can we process your information, and you give a go ahead, you have granted them consent. If it's for a performance of a contract, they can also, so if there's a contract between the data controller and the data processor, they can also process your information. If it's for the basis of legal obligation, so legal obligation just says that there is a legal requirement that requires data processing to occur, then if a data controller can we now rely on legal obligation if maybe the law establishing them or one of their regulatory laws or their regulations now provide for the processing of maybe their customers. You can also process people's or data subject information if you're relying on vital interest. So you see that there are three interests, which is vital, public, and legitimate interest. So vital interest is, simply put, is interest of the data subject. So where it is impracticable to obtain consent from the data subject, then you can process a data subject information. So let's see that, let's take for an instance, you're moving on the road and somebody is hit, right? And the person is bleeding profusely. You can process the person's information because at that point, person is unconscious and it's impracticable to obtain consent. So the sole purpose of processing is to save the person's life. We also have public interest if it's in the interest of the public, and legitimate interest if it's in the interest of the data controller or processor. So you need to ensure that as a data controller and processor, if you are processing a data subject right, relying on legitimate interest, you need to ensure that you conduct what is called a legitimate impact assessment. So a legitimate impact assessment just allows you to identify the risk, if any, on the part of the data subject. How does the Nigeria Data Protection Act affect you? It affects you as an individual because, of course, it speaks to the protection of your personal data. It provides for your rights as a data subject. It also speaks about data security, which speaks about the technical and organizational measures you need to put in place as a data controller and even as a data subject. It also speaks about transparency and accountability, and then recourse and remedies in case of a breach. So I'll be speaking about data subjects' rights. The foremost object of the NDPA is to safeguard the rights, freedoms, and interests of the data subject. So remember I said earlier that the Constitution provides for the right to privacy. However, I did not buttress or specifically identify certain rights. So the NDPA now has built upon that right that the Constitution has provided and has provided some other rights, such as the right to be informed, which just says that when you go to a data controller, you can exercise your rights by asking questions. So if you go to to Stanbic IBTC and they are processing your information, you can actually ask questions. Oh, can I see my data? So the right, when you exercise your right to access, invariably you are being informed. So right to rectify simply states that you can correct incorrect data, right? This is speaking on we already spoke about the principle of accuracy that says that data needs to be correct and up to date. So I would use myself as an example. My name is Sani Fatima, but most times when people are asked to spell my name, and what I have also seen over time is that people now spell my name as SaniFatimah, because most times they assume that, being from a particular place, right, they are able to predict the spelling of my name. But in reality, that is not the correct spelling. So in a case where there are mistakes or errors, I'm able to exercise my rights by going to the data controller and actually telling them that, okay, this is not my correct spelling. Like, this is not the correct spelling of my name. My name is spelled as Sanni and not Sani. So it is your right and it needs to be exercised, because the downside of this, of having incorrect data, is that it could lead to harm or there are certain consequences when your data is incorrect. So the right to be forgotten, if you don't want, if you have data that has been processed, you have a right to actually go to the data controller and state that you want to be forgotten, so you don't want to be affiliated with the data controller anymore. But it's also important to state that as a data controller, you need to also ensure that you have policies in place. One of the policies that would be good to have is your retention policy, because if you have a policy in place and the policy is accessible to the data subject, then they know that they are in a particular circumstance, they might not be forgotten, or they might not be able, you are unable to forget them at that time. There is the establishment, defense, and exercise of legal claims, and so you might need that particular data for even evidence, right? So at that point, you cannot forget the data subject. Right to restrict processing and right to object processing are actually very similar. So right to restrict processing simply says that the processing has begun, right? While right to object says that processing hasn't begun. So if Stanbic IBTC is processing your information, you can come to Stanbic IBTC and say to them that I don't want you to process my data anymore. Now processing has begun. It is also important to state that whatever Stanbic IBTC has done with your data before your withdrawal or before your restriction is not invalidated. Now, when you want them to resume processing, you would now come and inform them and say, okay, I am back now. Please, you can continue processing my information. While the right to object, the processing hasn't commenced at all. So it's more like you're going into Stanbic IBTC Bank, and then they want to process your information, and you're saying, oh no, don't process this information. Right to object automated processing is distinct from right to object processing in its entirety. So what the latter just says is that any processing that is automated, system-based, you can object. And this is very important as an individual because it could be detrimental. So, there's a difference between knowledge and skill, right? You're able to demonstrate expertise, for instance, through skills, right? So as an individual, when you are skillful, you are quite knowledgeable. But as an individual who is knowledgeable, you might not necessarily be skillful. So if it's an automated process that is relying on skills, right, and you don't have, maybe for instance, a certification to prove your expertise or your skills, then the system automatically throws you out. But notwithstanding, it's important to know that as an individual, without even a certification, you might have the skills that are necessary for that particular job or whatever is needed at that time. So if you exercise your rights to object, all you are saying is, oh, don't assess me through the computer, assess me in person. You also have the right to data portability that allows you to move from one data controller to another seamlessly. And then you have the last right, which is rights to lodge complaints with the Nigeria Data Protection Commission. Your responsibilities as a data subject cannot be overemphasized. So first, you need to exercise your rights, right? We just spoke about the right to be informed, to rectify, to restrict, to object, to access. You can submit your data subject access rights by contacting your data controller or the data controller who is holding your rights. You also need to keep records. And you also need to ensure that you stay informed. How do you stay informed? Read privacy policy. So when you get into organizations, even on the website, Stanbic IBTC has a privacy policy. Read your privacy policy. That way, you get to understand how Stanbic IBTC collects your data, uses your data, and protects your data. You also need to stay updated. Of course, you stop learning when you die. So you need to follow updates on data protection laws and policies. You also need to report to NDPC if there is a violation. You can report through our mail or through our social media platforms. You also need to be proactive as a data subject. How are you able to be proactive? Use strong passwords. Don't use passwords that are easily identifiable. Don't use your name, the name of your loved ones, the name of your partner. or your date of birth, right? You need to ensure that you use special characters, because it's important to say that hackers, for instance, work overtime, right? So if you let's say you want to create a password, you need to ensure that you use capital letter, special characters like commas, question mark, maybe currency signs or something like that. You also need to be cautious. Don't give out your data recklessly. You also need to enable your two-factor authentication. This is very, very, very important. So a two-factor authentication is just like an extra layer of security, right? If you go to a particular platform and you put in your password, if there's a breach and maybe a hacker has access to that password, it now requests for a two-factor authentication. There you still have to create another one. That should be different from the actual password. Of course, you need to regularly update your system, right? You need to be wary of phishing scam. So for phishing, there's the whale and there's the spear phishing, where it's targeted either towards executive or even you as an individual. When receiving mails, look very closely. I mean, when phishing is about to take place, they have to ensure that mails that are very identical are used. That way you are able to even tell when it is true or not. So if Stanbic IBTC sends you a mail, right? Let's say it comes from www.stanbicibtc.com. In a case of phishing, it will be www.stanbicbodyi.can-be-won. And if you don't look closely, you are not able to actually detect that it's a phishing scam. And that brings us to the format that I spoke about, being cautious. Use encryption. Encrypt your devices, even in your organization. Encrypt your mail so that if someone wants to get through, they need a key to decrypt it to the original state. Also, you need to limit your data sharing. I already spoke about it. We see that what happens now is that, we're speaking about global digitalization, there's social media, so people share all kinds of information online. It's very important to state that you have digital footprints. Your data online really cannot be erased. So the earlier you realize that you need to be careful when sharing information, the better. Of course, you need to educate yourself, use secure connections, avoid using public Wi-Fi as much as possible. And as a data controller, you need to limit access to even Wi-Fi. So it's best to have like the general Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi for your staff. You also need to back up your data in case of loss and review privacy settings. Of course, to every violation, there is a penalty or there's a consequence. So at the NDPC, we are able to, you are able, as a data subject, you are able to lodge complaints with us, and then we are able to issue decisions. So we can, if you lodge a complaint, we'll conduct investigations. So we don't just take decisions. We can also issue compliance orders. We can ask the data controller to compensate the data subjects. We can ask them to account for reproaches made from the breach. We can issue enforcement orders. There's imprisonment. Of course, there are penalties, such as if you're a data controller and process of major importance, we can fine you, for instance, a standard maximum amount, 2%, 10 million naira or 2% of your annual gross revenue. And if you are a data controller and processor of not of major importance, 2 million or 2% of your annual gross revenue. Then, of course, we remember when I started by saying that there's data privacy and there's data protection. So speaking on the data protection aspect, it just speaks to implementation of technical and organizational measures. So technical measures include protection of your data and security that can be realized by physical measures or in software and hardware. While organizational measures include measures that improve the implementation of instructions, policies, and procedures for employees to ensure security of processing. I've spoken about some of them. So examples of your technical measures would include your encryption, access control, so you need to limit who has access to information, data masking, firewall and intrusion detection systems, regular system of updates, data backups, vulnerability management. While for your organizational measures, you need to ensure that you have a data protection privacy or a policy, otherwise referred to as your privacy policy. You need to ensure that as an organization, you have a data protection officer. You need to conduct trainings. And if you are a data subject that is, maybe you are unemployed, for instance, you need to ensure that you participate in such initiatives like this, like what the Stanbic IBTC is doing, which is very welcome. Having a webinar to actually speak about data privacy laws and how they impact us as data subject, because I'm also a data subject. You need to also ensure that you have data inventory, conduct DPIA, which is the data privacy impact assessment when necessary, have the incident response plan, third-party risk management, and your retention policies. Also, if you're a data controller, you need to ensure that you have your privacy by design. So privacy by design just says before you begin design, at the point of designing rather, before implementation begins, you need to ensure that you consider privacy. Why privacy by default simply says while the solution or the software is being used, privacy is being considered. So as a checklist, as a data controller, because as a data controller, as a data subject, you can still be a data controller. First things first, you need to ensure you have your data privacy policy, process data in line with principles of the NDPA, designate an officer as your DPO, register with the Nigeria Data Protection Commission. Registration ends on the 31st of this month. Engage a DPCO to file your data protection audit. And with this, I have come to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Fatima, that was very
All right. So thanks, Fatima. That was really packed. I too, I learned a lot from the presentation as well, and I think our audience have really learned one of two few things today. I think as next is to take us into the question and answer section. I see Tutu has probably dropped off. But I think basically it's let's let the audience, let's see if we have questions from the audience as well. Let me see if there are any questions. So this is a question I can't see any questions yet from the audience. All right, so cool. I'll quickly jump into this. So Fatima, judging from your experience working with the Data Protection Commission, how would you advise businesses to ensure that they are handling customer data in a very secure manner? Fatima, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
So
cool.
businesses can ensure that they are handling customers' data, which is data subjects, data, right, or subject data in this sense, right, securely by ensuring that they implement technical and organizational measures. I've spoken a lot about the measures that need to be in place. You also, as a data controller, you also, or an organization, you also need to ensure that you are processing in line with the principles of the Nigeria Data Protection Act, right? You also need to ensure that you are creating awareness and even conducting trainings for your staff as an organization, right? Because I mean, your staff also handles which are in turn, the data processors, handles data on your behalf. You also need to ensure that you conduct your audits, because if you conduct audits, you're also able to identify vulnerabilities or risk, if any, and that would help you mitigate them, right? But technically, speaking, just to add to what I have said, some of the measures you need to implement include encryption, restricting access as much as possible through access control. So if you have a department that processes data, so let's say you have the customer service and you have the HR department, right? You need to restrict access between those two departments. So they should not because, oh, we are, even if it's the same data, right? That way you are ensuring security of the data. You also need to ensure you have firewalls and intrusion detection systems, right? They are also able to identify and even notify you as an organization when, I mean, there's maybe an incident that's about to occur, amongst others. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Fatima. I can see you're very passionate about the way you respond to these questions as well. That's good. We're learning a lot from you. I'll before I come back to you, I'm going back to the audience. I see that a few questions have come in. Okay, so I will take one of the questions, then I will come back to you with the second one. So the first one says, what are the steps taken by Stanbic so far to ensure compliance with the Data Protection Act? Yeah, so I'll quickly respond to that. So in line with the Data Protection Act, there are a couple of requirements. One, it's Stanbic being an organization that acts as a data controller, in certain instances also as a data processor. The commission had requested that all data controllers get registered with the commission. So what Stanbic has done is also ensure that it complies with that requirement. So we already registered. You can check us up at the commission's official page as well. Other than that, it's looking at the requirements of the act itself. What Stanbic has done, it's carried out its own internal gaps, self-assessment to determine to what extent it has complied with those requirements. It's also come up with a program to ensure that it fully complies. But speaking as of today, we already are complied with that requirement as well. We, as part of the act, it's that we have annual audit reports also submitted to the commission, and that has also been achieved as well. So Stanbic has ensured that they also puts in place, speaking to some of the things Fatima has spoken about today around organizational measures. It has also taken the right steps to meet and comply with those requirements, ensure that it has a policy in place, has a privacy statement as well published for the general public as well, putting in place the requisite technical controls to safeguard customer data and information, implementing things like consent management frameworks to ensure that we are able to capture consent from data subjects and provide them as at when required as well. So those are some of the steps that have been taken by Stanbic to fully comply with the regulation. I hope that addresses that question. Then going back to Fatima. Fatima, there's a question here from one of the audience saying, do you need an ID to exercise the right to correct your personal data?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Yes, you need an ID to exercise your right to correction, because how are you able to prove that it is wrong in the first place? So if, for instance, we have our NIN, which is like our main means of identification in Nigeria, right? So let's say that, for instance, you have another means of identification that is not correct, and that was what you submitted, right? And you're trying to correct that information. But let's say Stanbic IBTC has used that to process your information. You need to now go back with your NIN to prove that this is actually my correct information. If you don't go with a means of identification, it means anyone can just go and rectify anyone's data without evidence or without proof.
Okay, thank you, Fatima. I see that Tutu is back. Tutu, I will hand over to you to take charge of the questions and answer session again. Yeah.
Has been hassle, but I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for stepping in. Thank you, Fatima. I see that you are really engaging the audience, and I can see that the audience is also engaging you. Thank you very much. It's truly a very informative session, and we really appreciate you being here. So I can see that people are asking you, but I had promised people that it was going to be a giveaway, and I do not want to stop that. So I want to take the giveaway question now, and afterwards, if there's still more time, we can still take more questions. Is that fine? Do you permit me to do that?
Yes.
Yes,
Fine.
Fatima, are you fine? So are you aligned?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. So I had promised at the beginning of the session that there would be giveaway. So I am going to ask my questions now. So for the first question I would ask, I expect 3 winners because there are multiple answers to this question. So as many answers that are valid, you would be a winner. So my team would take down your name and we would reach out to you. You can also reach out to us as to how we would get your prize money. Is that fine? Is everyone aligned? I can see that everybody is excited. Yes. Everyone excited. Everybody's excited. I can't see any comments to show that you're excited. I almost give this giveaway. I need to see excitement in the chat rooms. Please engage me. Tell me that you're ready for my questions. So I can then tell you the questions. Okay, I can see someone talking about the site audits. Okay, that Abu was mentioning. All right, I think Abu will speak to that in a bit. Midi, are you ready for my question? Emily says with that emoji. Yes. Okay. Emily has given me ginger, so I'm going to call my questions now. First question: how can you, as a data subject, be proactive in protecting your personal data from being stolen or misused online? So Fatima dealt justice to this when she was speaking. So I do not expect anybody to not know the answer. She gave several, answers to this. So how can you as a data subject be proactive in protecting your personal data from being stolen or misused online? Answers. Okay, I'm waiting for the answers. Not on my screen yet. Answer. People said I'm ecstatic. I'm waiting for the question. Yes, very well read. Okay, yes, I've said the question now. So I need the answer that I need now. Okay. I said, how can you, as a data subject, be proactive in protecting your personal data from being stolen or misused online? Fatima dealt this a lot. Ensuring MFA is configured. We have one winner. Congratulations. That's one winner. So we're looking for 2 more people. So the first people that pop up on our screen is going to be our winner. The second one is Bamdele through the use of a strong password. And that's correct. And the third person, Mercy Ihebom, also used strong passwords from Facebook. Congratulations. We have all our 3 winners. For the first question, yes. So it shows that you all were listening when Fatima was giving her presentation. Thank you and congratulations. My team has taken note of the names, so please send us a DM on our channels: Facebook, X, Instagram. You can just take a snapshot of your name. It should align, or you can also send an email to callme@stambicibtc.com. CALLME. Call me at islamicipc.com to claim your prize. Very sure that your name on your Islamic IBC bank account or Tiz wallet must align to the name that you used here. So we won't pay another account. It's the person that won this giveaway that will win the amount. So that's question one. Question two now. Are you ready? Are we ready? Are we all ready? Okay, so question two, we get two winners from these question now. So two winners now. What steps should we take if we suspect that our personal information has been violated? If you suspect that your information has been violated, what steps should you take? What action should you take? What should you do if you suspect that your personal information has been compromised or it has been violated? What should you do? What should you do? Fatima mentioned this again when she was speaking. So rolling. Who is going to be our team, or who are going to be our two winners for this question? Our two winners, we have just to going. I haven't seen change your password. No, that's not the step to take. If your account has been, if your personal information has been violated, no. Report. Yes, so report to who? So this person says report. You are almost there. You are halfway there. Report. Yes. Who do you report to? Steps to take is to change your password. No, that's not the answer. Fatima mentioned this. Fatima highlighted this in her presentation. Secure your account. Report. Yes, report to who? I mean, the person that said report, I'm trying to see the name now. That is Fumi. Fumi, you are correct. It's to report, but who do you report to? Who do you report to? I can see Ahmed Makele says report to the Data Protection Commission. That's the NDPC. I believe that's correct. So yes, report to the NDPC, the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. So we have one winner. So I think we'd go with Ahmed Makele, and the other person that said report. I think it was Fumi. I can't because she got it right. She was one that started the way for others to understand what we're referring to. So yes, Fumi and Ahmed are winners. Send us a DM on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. You may also send an email to call me at stanbicipc.com. Congratulations. Thank you for listening very well to our presentation. And it's great to know that people were listening and paying attention while this was going. So I think that I'll just leave for the questions that were in the chat earlier. Let's address one or two of them now before I can allow Fatima to give closing remarks also for Abu, because it's already 2 p.m. now. So I'll just take one more question. I think someone says, hi, I am a legal practitioner. Kindly suggest a course or certification on data privacy in Nigeria. So I'm not sure who can do this. Abu, would you take that, or Fatima? Who would like to take this question, please? Oh, I can't hear from Fatima yet. Your page is muted, Fatima.
Oh, sorry about that. I will just answer. So speaking about data protection certification, right? Currently, what we have done is to domesticate certification. So the Nigeria Data Protection Commission has launched the national certification process. However, it has not been implemented, right? So what we did was to license a national certification body, which is the IIM, to conduct certification on our behalf. However, we have full control of the process. So the certification available now are international certifications. Those are kind of certifications that you can get at the moment. So these certifications cost a whooping sum, right? It's about $1,000, and even after getting the certification, you have to maintain your certificate, and this is why we thought to domesticate the process. So it's a good time to tell you to also follow us on all our social media platforms, so that the moment implementation begins, you can also be informed. Thank you.
Great. Abu, did you have anything to say too?
No, I think Fatima just said took the words out of my mouth. So basically, what we have today are more international based and global based. I know the NDPC is working on localizing one as well, so that that is fit for purpose for our own data subjects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abu. So I hope that that answers the question for the legal practitioner. It's past time already, so I would just like to hand over to Fatima, then Abu, who will close for us for the webinar today. Thank you all so much for participating. Fatima, please, final words. You're muted. I can't hear Fatima.
So I'll close with these final words. As a data subject, it is important to note that the essence and importance of data protection and privacy cannot be overemphasized. Please go through the Nigeria Data Protection Act so that you internalize these laws and provisions. Know your rights as a data subject. These rights are exercisable and enforceable, right? So you also need to educate yourself about the subject matter. The ecosystem is dynamic, right? Things keep changing. So, I mean, it's a moving train, literally. You need to get on board and also learn new things relating to data protection and privacy. I've spoken extensively on measures that need to be in place. These conversations are not mere words. They need to be implemented. They need to be practiced. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fatima. It was a pleasure having you. Abu Mary, please just close for us. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Fatima, as well. So I think on a final note from me, it's to highlight two key controls that data subjects need to take into consideration. One is the control called encryption, while the other is the control called second factor or multi-factor authentication. So these are very key controls that can help with improving your security posture in the way you manage the privacy of your data. It also ensures that you prevent cyber criminals from gaining unauthorized access to sensitive information or sensitive data or personal data in any means. So if you don't understand what encryption is, it's just a method of ensuring that you scramble data in a manner that only unauthorized people can go back and unscramble it. That's just putting it in a very, very simple form. Why second factor authentication is where you use a code other than password, a second code, a secondary code other than your initial password to be able to validate and authenticate yourself when you try to access your organizational assets or your personal data or some of your applications or platforms that you use in conducting financial services or interacting or sharing data in any way. So I'll leave it at that point, and that these are two key things you need to take out of the session today as well, in addition to going much around the requirements from the Data Protection Act. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abu. Thank you very much, Fatima. It was a pleasure, hosting this webinar for you. And I hope that our next edition, as usual, will be very much engaging. Thank you so much to our audience too for participating. I mean, if we didn't have you, it wouldn't be as lively as this. So we appreciate you for your patience, and congratulations to our winners. Please reach out to us to redeem your prizes. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Thanks, everyone.